made one of these before, and setting it up is a lot harder than I thought it would be. I'm in, but I'm crooked. Alright. I always see people making these videos about their books that they've read for the year, and I thought it was about time I did one myself, because this is the first year I've read this many books. Usually I clock in at just under 10, but this year I became officially obsessed. Oh, goodness. It's not even that many. How do people read like 100 and something or 80 or any of those numbers? I read 23 books this year, and that was a lot, so I don't really know how people do it. Also, excuse my background, I've got nowhere else that I could do this video. So my rating system is pretty much like 5 stars is wow, loved it, it's a favourite, would read again for sure. 4 stars is like I loved it as well. There's just something, and it could be quite small, that made it 4 stars instead of 5 stars. 3 stars, now for me 3 stars, I liked the book still, but there were just a few things that I didn't love, and it's probably one that I wouldn't pick up and read again. 2 stars, didn't like it. 1 star, hated it. So I'm gonna go through a quick run through of each book that I read and let you know what I rated it, and just like a brief summary of what the book is about. So starting off strong with Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I'd never read an Ali Hazelwood book before I picked this one up. I saw it on the new releases shelf in Dimmicks, and saw that it was like a werewolf vampire take on Romeo and Juliet, and I was like, I have to have that one. I rated this 4 stars, and the reason it wasn't 5 stars was just there was a few scenes, slightly spicier scenes in it, that I didn't really like how they were written, and they were a bit of an ick for me. So 4 stars. Then She Was Gone by Jewell. This wasn't the first one I read of hers, although I know this is the one that everyone knows about, and I really liked this one. Basically, it's where this mum's daughter went missing, and she's never given up hope, and it's set in the future, and she meets this man who's really charming and rich, and she sort of falls into a bit of a thing with him. When she meets his daughter is a spitting image of her daughter that went missing. It was pretty cool, some crazy twists. I rated it 4 stars. We got Lock Every Door by Riley Saga. I was doing this as a part of a book club I was in with my friends. This one was pretty good. She gets hired to stay on at this really fancy, luxurious apartment, house sitting a room while they're waiting for new tenants to fill it in, and she makes friends with one of the girls who's doing the same thing on the floor below, but then like weird things start to happen. I gave this one 4 stars just because I didn't feel like it was spooky enough. Really liked it, but there wasn't enough spook for me. The Gracia. Now this one is so good. I read it at the beginning of the year. I watched Hayley Pham, who I love on Instagram and YouTube, and she recommended this book in her wrap up. I picked it up, devoured it in a day, made me cry. As a woman reading it, just made me feel really sad and frustrated at the world and how a lot of things are not as progressive as I guess I'd like to think they are for women. It's hard to say too much about this one without giving the plot away, but it's basically that girls are believed to have these dangerous powers that they get when they turn 16, and so they're shipped off to this camp for their 16th year to get rid of the powers before they come back to town, where they're then paired off with a man to marry him. Highly recommend this one. I originally gave it 4 stars just because the pacing in parts I didn't love, because I haven't stopped thinking about it the entire year, and I recommend it to every single person who will listen to me talk about it. I then changed it to 4.5 stars. We're coming in hot with another Jewell, The Night She Disappeared. It's about this teenage mum, and her mum is babysitting her daughter while she and her partner go off for a dinner date night. They never come back. And so it follows the mum trying to figure out what happened to her daughter. How it unfolds at the end had me sobbing, which totally shocked me. So this one was 5 stars. The Housemaid. Now I read this last week, so this is managed to scrape in there for my reading list of 2024. I think a lot of you probably know about it already, but it's basically where this girl is hired as a housemaid for this really rich couple. Strange things sort of are happening, but also she's kind of catching feelings for the husband. This one has shocked me more than many of the books I read this year. I pride myself on being someone to call a plot twist pretty well, but this one I really didn't call it, and my jaw was on the floor multiple times, so I gave this one 5 stars. This really ended the year on a banger. Crimson Moth. This was the real hit this year. I was very excited to get it from the shops, but I'm gonna have to be honest, and it just didn't do it for me. I did like it wasn't a bad book. I gave it 3 stars, but for a book that's meant to be about a girl who saves witches from the witch hunters, there was 0 of that happened in this book. So I was just disappointed, I guess, because the way it was pitched wasn't how it then panned out. Fourth Wing. I can't believe it took me so long to read it. I still haven't read Iron Flame. I'm saving it to read in January when I get Onyx Storm, because I don't really like waiting for books to be released. This one, loved it. It's right up my alley, beginning to end. I think everyone knows about this book by now. I gave this one 5 stars. Also made me cry. Yeah, just really loved the world building in this one and the characters. God, I was trying to get my fringe to behave earlier, because I used to have a fringe that was here and I'm growing it out, and it's hard. I don't know, it's my little first world problem. Loved it. This one here, I think, again, I read a lot of books this year that lots of people know about, so I'll just keep my descriptions brief. She enters these games, kind of like Hunger Games, so it was kind of like a vampire versions of Hunger Games. It was like a series of challenges, but she's human, and she's the only human, and everyone else is a vampire. And she's to team up with this other sort of dark, brooding vampire to help her out, and you can probably guess some of what happens in the book. Really liked this one, was engaged from beginning to end. I gave this one 5 stars. The Naturals. This one, absolutely loved it. I do love a bit of YA. Lover of crime, and I really enjoy a book where I can't guess the ending. It's about a group of teens where they all are being used kind of behind the scenes by the FBI because they've got some sort of natural ability which makes them really good at solving crimes. And I just really loved the types of crimes that they were solving in this one. It's lots of like serial killer sort of crimes, which I know it sounds weird to say I loved reading about a serial killer, but I am just a girl. Killer Instinct, second one in the series. I also gave this one 5 stars. I was really worried because a lot of times with the crime books, I sometimes find that the second ones aren't as good, or the crime isn't as good. Just as good, if not better. Loved it. I'm yet to read the other ones in the series though, so 5 stars. The Holy Trinity. Powerless, Powerful, Reckless. I picked up Powerless and I'd heard a lot of the mixed reviews. Like a lot of people were saying, oh, I liked it or I didn't like it. Loved it. Like I could see why it was similar to lots of other stories. Like there's so many other stories that are in this book, but I don't care because I'll be honest, I always pick up a book and look to see if there's like a storyline in it that I've read before that I love, like the Beauty and the Beast trope. Love that one. But it's basically like a world of people that have powers of varying strengths, and this stars a girl who is powerless, so she doesn't have powers. But she's having to kind of disguise that because people without powers are banished. So 5 stars for this one. So I really loved the first one. And then now with novellas, they can obviously be a real hit or miss. This one though, 5 stars. I haven't sobbed as much as I did when I read this one. Ugly sobbing. And Reckless, again, 5 stars. Like the series was a real hit for me beginning to end. Read them all one after the other. I must say though, the slowest burn of a series that I've read. Like a crazy slow burn. Book lovers. Now this one here was my first Emily Henry book. I read this when I was in New Zealand this year. Really liked the story. I'm not really one to pick up books that are just like a normal romance story. I love like a fantasy or a crime or something where it's a bit of a twist to reality. But I discovered in reading this book that I really liked reading about just a normal life and a normal romance. I really related to the older sister in this one, being an older sister myself, and I found myself crying at a few points in this one. So this one was 5 stars. Just a little rundown. She sort of this top-notch book publisher, and her sister loves small town romances where, you know, you move to the small town and you help a business from failing all of those Hallmark Christmas movies. And so the sister drags her along to a small town to kind of live out that fantasy, and it kind of is like that storyline being played out, but in a more realistic way. Then we dabbled in a little bit more Ali Hazelwood with Love Theoretically. I was ready to read another just sort of normal life romance book. Really liked this one. I gave it 4 stars just because a lot of the science talk in it I couldn't really understand. It just like wasn't something that computed for my brain. It's just about these two, like he's a science professor and she's doing lectures in science. But there's past history there with him, not in a romantic way, but in that he did something to her mentor back in the day that she had then decided that she hated this man, and now he is always around her. And you can kind of imagine a bit of like Grumpy Sunshine vibes. The selection, we dabbled in a little bit more YA. This one, loved it. Now I did start the second book and I didn't like that one, so I'm not going to finish the series, but really liked this one, like Hunger Games / Bachelorette. She gets selected to go and compete at the palace to be the princess bride, but she hates it. Like, she hates everything about it. She hates the frilly dresses because, again, she's not like other girls. But I did really love it, and I ate it up, and I finished it really quickly. I gave it 4 stars just because it's I really loved it, but it didn't have that extra wow for me to give it 5 stars. I actually started the year off by finishing off the Akatar series. So the little novella, I thought this one was really sweet. I know it gets a lot of hate, but I gave it 4 stars just because it was a really kind of warm and cozy story to read. I read it right after Christmas, so like in that New Year period, this beginning of this year, which is crazy that I'm now filming this video at Christmas time, and it doesn't feel like that long ago that I read this book. And here, now I know a lot of people say that if you don't like Nesta, then you weren't ever a Nesta. I relate to Nesta in small aspects, but I guess I was never a Nesta, because don't get me wrong, I loved it. But I just felt like this could have been cut down because there was so many spicy scenes, like almost too many. I gave it 4 stars because I love everything Sarah J. Maas does, and I did really love it. It just wasn't the same level of love that I had for the first 3 books in the series. Verity, my first Colleen Hoover book. This was a part of our book club, me and my friends. Quite a few people had told me this year to read this book, so I did. And I didn't, yeah, it wasn't for me. Like, I didn't hate it, but the twist had me like furious. Not really furious, but I was really frustrated. And I remember I finished the book and I stormed out and I was like, Dad, guess what the twist is? But I know a lot of people love this book. I just didn't think it was scary enough. I felt like the story being told about Verity dragged on too long and was again full of too many sex scenes rather than like plot to drive the story. And the twist just kind of felt like, to me it was like, well, what was the point of the story? I think I gave this one 2 stars just because of that, but maybe 3 stars because it wasn't all that bad. I can't remember, 2 or 3 stars. Okay, this one here, I know everyone loves it, and my sister read this one before I did, absolutely loves it. I don't know what it is, but I just couldn't quite get into it. So I've read Caraval and it was the same thing. Like, I loved the world and the premise and the characters and the idea of the story, but I don't know how to describe it, like I couldn't quite get into the story and involve myself in what was going on. Like, I felt a bit separate from it, and it was the same one with this, so it might just be a writing style and I'm just not crazy into Stephanie Garber's writing style. I gave this one 3 stars, 2 reasons. So the first one being that I felt like I couldn't really get into the story and immerse myself in the world, but the second reason being I felt like the lead character was just so naive and she just kept making mistakes where I was like, come on, use your common sense. But I guess that was like the point. Anyway, it sounds like I really hated this book. I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 stars. I was just really disappointed because I was like, the cover is stunning and I know that everyone loves this series, so I really hoped I'd like it, but that's okay. Oh, Uglies. I read this because the movie had come out and I really like reading books before I watch the movies. I'm glad I did read it first. Spoiler alert, I hated the movie. Like, it was so bad. It was so bad. I was gonna turn it off, but I wanted to see it through because I had read the book. Now, the book, when it started, I didn't love, like, the first chunk where she's with the friend still in Uglyville. I didn't really love it. Then when she went to the next destination, which I won't spoil, I really liked it. I was thinking, oh, okay, so this is now like a 4-star read for me. And then this sort of last bit, really didn't like that bit. And so 3 stars for me. I think that it had a lot of potential, and probably if I was, like, you know, 16 reading this, I probably would have loved it a lot more. I just had a few more critiques with some of the way that the story and plot played out. 3 stars. Right. This one. Now, I'm gonna take a moment to appreciate the cover, because that, how fun. That's exactly why I bought it. I picked this up and I went, I love that cover, I need to have it, which is why I've got way too many books, because I buy them because they're pretty. Started reading it and I went, oh, love it. Love the scene, love the characters, really into it. Then the spicy scenes started and I just really didn't like the way they were written. Just personally for me, didn't do it. And then I just kind of got a bit bored and was pretty done with the story, but I finished it out. But this one was a 2-star read for me. But I appreciate why a lot of people like it. Just for me personally, didn't do it. Which is a shame because I bought the other 2 because of the covers. So I will read those eventually. Maybe I like them better. Who knows? But yes, that is a wrap on my books from 2024. I only read 23 books this year, which I say only, but last year I read like 10 or something. I don't know. I started my Bookstagram account in March of this year when work was making me feel like I was slowly drowning and I needed something else to focus my energy on, or I might just quit. So starting that account really kind of jump-started me into wanting to read heaps of books, because, you know, I was seeing all the books people were recommending, and I really love watching people's wrap-ups of their year, because I like writing down everything they say with like a 5-star, 4-star read and then going and looking it up. And that's how I found a lot of the books that I've read. Like The Grace Year was one of my favourites from the year, and that was from one of those videos. But yeah, I hope you liked this. It's my first time doing this, so sorry if it was completely terrible. But I hope to make a few more of these in the future. And I think my reading goal for this year was 20, but because I did 23, my reading goal for next year I'm going to up to 25 and push myself to read those couple extra books. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful start to your 2025. Let me know down in the comments what your reading goal is for the year. I'm really interested to see how many books people are wanting to read, but also let me know what your top book for 2024 was, because I love recommendations, and I will be writing down every single book that you say and going and looking at it on Goodreads, and adding it to my list if it looks like something that I would love. I've got a very long list that I will continue to add books to no matter what anyone says. So yeah, thank you. Bye.